This podcast contains paid advertisements, but more on that later. Welcome to the O'Connor Bootstrap podcast, where I discuss how you can grow your business by the bootstraps. This applies to everyone with an entrepreneurial spirit. That includes bootstrappers just starting out, established business owners, and business leaders. My goal is to help you grow both personally and professionally. I'm your host, Isaiah O'Connor. Welcome back to the O'Connor Bootstrap podcast Remastered series. Today is my origin story. It's how I got to where I am and what started it all. And what started it all, quite honestly, was me listening to audiobooks while working in the kitchen at a restaurant, cutting up tons of veggies. So, of course, today's sponsor is Audible. Part of the reason it is one of my favorite sponsors is because it's the very reason I'm here on this podcast. Very much in a real way, because I don't have a lot of time to sit down and read. And it was by me listening to audiobooks while I was working, prepping veggies, cutting up veggies at a restaurant that inspired me to become an entrepreneur. Today's book that I recommend is 48 Days to the Work You Love by Dan Miller. It's an amazing book. It's a great way to find out what you are made for, what you love, what your true value is. It's what inspired me to become an entrepreneur. It is a really amazing book. I can highly suggest it. So go check it out over at audible.com/bootstrap with a capital B. Now, when you go to audible.com/bootstrap, you can get a 30-day free trial. And with that free trial, you get one free audiobook that you can keep forever. So you can go get your free copy of 48 Days to the Work You Love over at audible.com/bootstrap. You get to keep it forever. Listen to it as many times as you want. It never expires. There's no contract period, so you can end it within the 30 days. But I doubt you'll want to, because it's such an amazing program. The app is amazing. The content is amazing. It's really cool. Go check it out. audible.com/bootstrap. Without any further ado, we're going to listen to an entrepreneur's origin story. Today we're going to be talking about a little bit more into my history, my background, my origin story, a entrepreneur's origin story. So, in my last podcast, I spoke about, passion. What am I passionate about, or what I can become passionate about? And, this question is not an easy thing to answer. It really requires a lot of introspection and reflection. And that is to say, you need to know who you are and how you got there. I invite you to come with me this time as I tell my story and I reflect on my past and how I got to the place I am now. This being my origin story, I'll be focusing on what led me to become an entrepreneur in the first place. Hopefully, you'll get something from this as well. Well, why should I call it an origin story and not something else? Well, a good origin story gives you the why to the who. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let's take one of my favorite origin stories of all time, Spider-Man. On the surface, and even if you had no idea of his origin story, he is simply a person with superhuman abilities who has decided to fight crime just because that's the right thing to do. Well, this is not a bad thing. However, he becomes so much more intriguing when you look at his origin story. You find that he did not at first decide to be a hero, but only a selfish kid looking to make a name for himself. Only after tragedy strikes does he come to realize that he needs to use his power responsibly. Or, as the now famous line says, with great power comes great responsibility. So, who is Spider-Man a hero? Why is he a hero? Well, because he learned from his big mistake. Not that it hurt gaining superpowers from spider bites, but he's a superhero because he chose to, because of his mistakes. Why he is really important to understanding Spider-Man. So, well, what about me? Well, as I was reflecting on the past in order to write this, I noticed not only did I possess an entrepreneurial bend, but I grew up with two entrepreneurs, even though I don't think they would even look at themselves that way. My mom ran daycare out of our house, and my dad ran his own janitorial service. I often worked with my dad, and I am now only realizing the value of that time. He instilled with me a really good work ethic and the drive to get pushed through just to get the job done, and also some understanding of what running a business means. He also showed me the determination to do what needed to be done, rain or shine, even when sick. With all this experience when I was a kid, I started selling golf balls and sodas at a local golf course. When I was in college, I researched starting my own web design company, and then years later, I tried to start an iPod repair business for extra income. None of these lasted very long, but yet the spark was there. One of the biggest influences in my life came when I followed my dream of going on staff with a Christian missionary organization called Youth with a Mission. This was an amazing time for me and a big part of what I am now and who I am now. First and foremost, I met my Norwegian wife, which eventually landed me where I now live in Norway. Secondly, I started to really cultivate my balloon twisting hobby. Lastly, I discovered that I had at the heart of a teacher. After my time on staff at the missionary base, I went home, I got married, and got into a normal routine of finding a job, living just above my means, and struggling to get by. I worked jobs in sales and management, restaurants, and gas stations, whatever it took. Eventually, we moved from California to Norway. Things did not start off easy for us. I was out of work for a solid year while struggling to learn the language. And when I did land a job, it was as a part-time minimum wage cook. I soon got sick and tired of, being sick and tired. I was tired of taking any and every job just to pay the bills. And then my wife got pregnant, and I needed to find something better, something different. I needed to try my true vocation, not just another minimum wage job. I needed to get something better. Something that would break the cycle of barely squeaking by. Something I could be passionate about. I have always been a reader. It's the way I have educated myself. I started to listen to books at work and try to figure out a way out. One of these books was called 48 Days to the Work You Love by a guy named Dan Miller. The book spoke to finding who you were and what your vocation really is. The book caused something inside of me that had been simmering for years to boil over. I would start my own business again. Inspired by the book, I started reflecting on my past. One thing that came to me is that one of the ways I'd been trying to integrate into Norwegian culture was to do some balloon twisting for some charity events. And not only kids, but the adults to really appreciate it. I figured all I needed was a pump, which I already had, a bag of balloons, and a website. With my past in management and sales, I figured I had a really good grasp of what running a business and marketing was all about. Yeah. I went to my wife and I told her about it. She was unsurprisingly not too keen on the idea. She was working full-time to support us, and she was also 7 months pregnant with our firstborn. After some discussion, sometimes rather heated, she reluctantly agreed for me to try, as long as my business was only a side job and I would keep looking for a replacement for my part-time job. I kept looking for full-time work. She had, as often is the case, much more sense than me. As you might expect, it did not take off as quickly as I had been managed. I discovered the management and sales were much different than ownership and marketing. My first year, I ended with less than a full month's pay at a regular full-time job. Good thing I hadn't quit my day job. About 2 years later, life decided to kick me out of the nest. The part-time job that I had went bankrupt, and I had failed at landing a full-time job. All I had was my business, and that was barely making any money, even with all my books. I still struggled with finding clients, and my wife was wanting me to shut it down. Something needed to change, and change fast, and change did happen. First of all, I managed to land a major event company as a client. Second, I found out that balloon decor was highly marketable in Norway. I was able to take and pass a course in balloon decor, and instantly making me more marketable. About a year after that, I managed to gain a great mentor, and he suggested rebranding my business. So I agreed with him, and I rebranded and changed my focus from balloon twisting to balloon decor. I have discovered that while I like balloon twisting, my real passion has become balloon decor. All this combined helped me accelerate my growth. Flash forward to today, and now I've moved out of my house into an office. I have hired my first employee. I've beaten last year's sales, and I'm starting to the busiest time of the year. As I see my business grow, I grow as a person. And as I've grown, Jason's been there along for the journey. And he brought me, and again, back to the passion. That is, some of my other passion is writing and teaching. And so now I'm really able to continue with that, being passionate about something to help you guys find your passion to build up your business. So on that, how do you find your true passion? Well, if my story is any indicator, look at what you enjoy, what you do for fun as a hobby. Do not overlook the positive role models in your life, and do not be afraid to try things you think may work, because they just might. You may fail a few times, or you may find that one thing you like leads to something you're passionate about, so try. Do not give up, push through the hard times, and you will eventually find what you're looking for. If you found value in this content, please leave a comment and give us a 5-star rating on whichever podcast platform you use. We're on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google, and most other podcast platforms. If you would like to support us, you can check out our sponsor links, or if you'd like to support us directly, you can donate or join our membership program at buymeacoffee.com/bootstrap. Of course, it really helps when you share these podcasts with your friends as well. If you'd like to interact with me and other bootstrappers and leaders, you can join us over at our O'Connor Bootstrap Podcast Facebook group. You have been listening to the O'Connor Bootstrap Podcast, an Atheoz Business Solutions podcast. For a companion podcast, the Atheoz Business Podcast, which is hosted by Jason St. Clair, past episodes and related blogs, please check out our website at www.atheoz.com, which is at www.atheoz.com or theoz.com. Until next time, I have been your friendly neighborhood entrepreneur, Isaiah O'Connor.